All right, welcome to another edition of Beyond the Touchline. I am Adrian Healy, and he is Nick Kell. How are you doing, Nick? Are you ready for some home cooking? We're going to talk about some home cooking today.
Good morning, Adrian. Yes, really looking forward to talking to one of the legends of U.S. men's national team and Mexican La Liga.
And when we say home cooking in the context of the World Cup, Nick, we're talking about the three home nations, the United States, Canada, and Mexico, who will all be co-hosting this summer, the extravaganza. And we thought, what better man to get in to talk about the prospects for the three teams and what it'll mean to have home advantage than Herculez Gomez, a very good friend of mine who works. He's everywhere at the moment, Nick. I'm sure you see him everywhere for ESPN in both languages.
Yes. You can't turn on the television without seeing his smiling face.
Herc TV. Herculez Gomez joining us from Connecticut right here on Beyond the Touchline. All right, here we go with Beyond the Touchline and Herculez Gomez joining us from Connecticut. Herc, long time no see. Our paths crossed several moons ago now in Connecticut when you were on your way into the broadcasting world. And I'm still in it, but I was leaving Connecticut and going down to Texas. And I think you relieved me of a few poker dollars somewhere along the line.
You're being very humble. I believe you relieved me of a few poker dollars. I'm actually glad you left. My wallet's a lot heavier since.
Well, Nick is with us. I know you haven't met Nick before. Nick's a collegiate coach who spent his entire career over here. So here he is.
A pleasure, Nick.
We thought you were the ideal man to talk about the three home nations ahead of this extravaganza this summer, US, Mexico, and Canada. I know you've experience of all three, but first of all, Herc, let's get a little bit into your backstory, because it always fascinates me looking at your career arc. How did a kid who grew up in Oxnard and Las Vegas end up starting his playing career in Liga MX? How did that happen?
It's actually pretty crazy, because I grew up in an era where there weren't any academies. Like you see now in Major League Soccer, you have the academies, MLS Next, you have USL, you've got all these different types of avenues, different types of pipelines. Nick, you would know college soccer has also produced athletes that go on to bigger and better in European football. I grew up in an era where a lot of that wasn't available to me. And in Oxnard, if you've ever been to Oxnard is a small town in Southern California that's known for three things. The produce that comes out of there, so the grapes and strawberries, very big. Prized boxers who come out of Oxnard, California. I'm talking about world champions. And El Parque del Sol, which is a little about 300 or 450 capacity stadium where amateur soccer is played. And it is king. So I grew up Saturdays and Sundays spending all my time there. And that was really like my development, if you will, into football. We move away from Oxnard, get into Las Vegas. So whatever niche opportunities I had in Oxnard got even more reduced in Southern Nevada, where I would have to play literally U15s. I was a U15 player playing U18s, U19s, because our club, there just wasn't enough competition, so we would move up in age groups. And I wasn't heavily recruited growing up. I had a community college. I had not even UNLV, the local college, was interested in me. And my father, through like friends and connections, I heard about, kids who were going to Mexico and trying out, kind of Jay Demerit story, if you will, backpacking and taking your chances. And that I did. I tried out in Pachuca, my first go at professional football. I tried out for the third division team at 18 years of age. Full-blown American kid with a Mexican background. I didn't have a Mexican passport. I thought I knew the language well. And I got there, and they had their own version of Rhyme Cockney, which is like Albur, which is like their own language. I was completely lost, duck out of water, out of my element. Tried out for this team, and I remember it was like a big warehouse with bunk beds on each side, a little mini cafeteria, and like a couple bathrooms and showers. And I was there for a couple weeks, and they had said thank you but no thank you. They weren't interested. I didn't have my Mexican passport. At that time, only 2 players with a foreign passport can play on the team, and they weren't interested. There was a scout at one of the exhibition games that we played who asked about me, what's your story? kind of liked what he saw. And he goes, so you don't have a Mexican passport? I said, no. And he's like, but your family's Mexican. I said, yes. Where are they from? I said, Los Altos de Jalisco. Explain the area. Okay. But you were born in the States? Yeah. So you can get a Mexican passport. I was like, well, yeah, I believe so. Okay. Let's bring you down to Cruz Azul. And I started training with the famed Cruz Azul Academy down in Mexico City. It's a big club. And they put me up in a clubhouse. They housed me. They fed me. And I did that for 4 months. At that point in time, this was early 2000, it was a lot longer to get your passport. And it wouldn't come through. And I couldn't get it going. And I got just desperate. And there was a couple guys who came in to try out at Cruz Azul during that time. It was like, hey, they called me Gringo. We're going to go down to Puebla and try out for this new team they're making down in Puebla. Why don't you just come on down and do the tryout? If it doesn't happen, you come back. It's the weekend. You come back to Cruz Azul. You're still in the Casa Club, the clubhouse. I said, you know what? They're right. I went down, and Puebla was willing to sign me as a foreign player. And that's how I started playing professionally in Mexico. I did that for 1 season. I got paid the equivalent of $40 a month. I got paid $40 a month in the year 2000, 2001 almost. They housed me. They fed me. I got a proper development and played professional soccer, second division. But it was bad. I just didn't think this was something I wanted. I didn't think it was going anywhere. I asked the coaching staff to help me get a release. I told them I wanted to go to college. They gave me my player pass, my release, and I went down and kind of started my journey within the U.S. But that was my first foray into, it wasn't even Liga MX back then. That was my first foray into Mexican football. But that's really how my journey into professional soccer started.
Certainly gives you an appreciation for what everybody's doing these days.
I mean, Nick, you know, I think about the advantages kids have today. I do a podcast on the Men in Blazers network called Vamos, and I interviewed Xavier Goso. And if you've ever heard of Xavier Goso right now, he's like the it player right now in Major League Soccer. He's a teenager scoring goals, and the kid has clubs like Atletico Madrid, Villarreal, like he's got Monaco, big clubs chasing his signature. I always think about that. You know, I was kind of ahead of my time. I was 19 years old playing for the Galaxy, and I recall my training session started, Nick, when the first team's training session ended, because I was the 26th man. Right. So, like, literally after the training session ended, they would be like, all right, come out. And Alexi Lalas would have me, like, do 1v1s against them, you know? Like, Kobe Jones and Mauricio Cienfuegos used to cross me the ball, and I would finish type of deal. Like, I didn't have the resources these kids have today.
Yeah.
But I also think it kind of helped me. And, Nick, you would probably know more about this. I think I was heavily fortified mentally because of everything I went through, that later on in my career, my path, things wouldn't get to me so easily. And I kind of feel like I'm a father of 2. My daughter's 8, my son is 5, and I see the way sometimes kids interact. I kind of feel like maybe we protect or we shelter too much, and I see some of that in the footballing generations.
Definitely. We were talking to Tom Somani. I'm not sure if you know who Tom is.
Yes.
But he and I grew up, well, we played for the same team in England. And the team we played for, it didn't have a training field. Like, it was basically, you know, a walled-off artificial turf 5v5 field for the whole team. But, you know, that's what it is, right? You make the most of it, and you don't know what you don't have at the time.
Torquay United, just in case you're wondering. The mighty Gulls is the team that Nick is...
Gulls, like the Seagulls.
Yeah, the Seagulls.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Seagulls are Brighton. The Gulls are just Torquay. But making the most of your opportunity, you talked about the Galaxy. In 2005, your opportunity came along. I think Landon Donovan was gone, or basically you filled the void that Donovan had left, and you filled it spectacularly with a breakout season.
Yeah, so that's 2005, right? My professional journey started. So I signed a contract around August with the Galaxy of 2002, and then by November we were MLS Cup champions. So without really doing anything, I had a ring on my finger, you know? And the following year I played 5 minutes the whole season. And I don't know if you guys remember, but back then Major League Soccer had overtime and golden goal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I made my debut in Major League Soccer at 19 years of age against the Kansas City Wizards at that time. I come on the field, I touched the ball once, and there was maybe like 3 minutes that had gone by since I'd been on the field, and they score against us. Game over. That was my professional experience. That was it. The following year, I got loaned out to the Seattle Sounders in the A-League because I was like 20 years old. They still felt I needed to mature. When I was 19, I was the youngest guy. The second youngest guy was 23. Like, it wasn't normal for teenagers to be in Major League Soccer. You know, I didn't go through the correct path, if you will, like the rest of those guys, if you could say that's correct path. So when I come back in 2005, I'd come back as kind of like, this is the kid who couldn't make it. This is the kid that wasn't good enough. And I was signed to a developmental contract. I'm living in Southern California, and I'm making $1,200 a month. I was signed as a guy who wasn't going to play. But thankfully, this was the first year of the reserve league that Major League Soccer did.
Yeah.
And it was like first team would play on a Saturday, and the reserve team, like whoever didn't play that day or played little, would play on a Sunday. And Sunday morning, there I was, and I started scoring some goals. So when Landon went to the Gold Cup, when Jovan Karofsky went to the Gold Cup, when Chris Albright was at the Gold Cup, and there was an injury, and the Brazilian forward that we had wasn't scoring goals, well, Steve Sampson, ex-national team coach, turned and looked at me and gave me a start one game in the midfield as a right winger, and I scored my first goal. And he decided to give me another start, you know, and it was against Real Madrid. And I played well against Real Madrid in a friendly. And it just snowballed into that. So as a developmental player, you said I broke out. Not how it works. I became our team MVP in a season that we won the double. I was the leading goal scorer of the Open Cup. I scored 11 goals, I believe, in league play. We won MLS Cup, and kind of just like, that was my breakout year. That was like, all right, you're here type of moment.
Last thing on your playing career, I could talk about all that. We should have done a separate podcast just for your playing career. But jumping forward, you went on to lead the Mexican Primera Division in goals as an American. It had never been done before. I don't know if it's been done since. When you look back at that achievement, did it change how people down there saw footballers from the U.S.?
Absolutely. There were footballers, American footballers, that had opened doors for guys like me, Clay Koyman, Eric Winalda, Marcelo Balboa, But I was kind of the first to explode with, like, Clay Koyman was a captain. Like, success at a tangible level. You know, I won a Golden Boot. You know, I did it in a year where I started 5 games, and I think it turned some heads. I always tell the joke of, it's not even a joke, but it's the story of, I tied the Golden Boot with Chicharito Hernandez. We're linked. Yeah. Chicharito, Little P, myself, were linked forever. The only difference is he got sold to Manchester United, and I got sold to Pachuca. But it opened eyes, it turned heads, and this is why the following season, you know, DeMarcus Beasley was at Puebla, because they were like, hey, this worked out for us. And now you see Alejandro Sendejas, who's crushing it. You know, you see guys like Joe Benny Corona who have gone there. Edgar Castillo, Edgar Castillo was actually there before I was. But you see opportunities being taken, Paulo Ariola, by Mexican Americans in Mexico. And most importantly, it got me an opportunity to compete for a World Cup spot. If I don't win the goal scoring title, Bob Bradley doesn't give me the time of day. I played 0 minutes. I was in 0 camps in that cycle. Because of that, he invited me in the 30-man camp, and I earned my way to a World Cup. So, absolutely.
Yeah. I'll always remember, on just finishing off with your World Cup experience, I'll always remember calling a U.S. friendly in Hartford against the Czech Republic right before South Africa, where you scored. I don't know if the final squad had been announced at that point, but anyway.
It got announced that night at 2 a.m.
So
if I don't score that goal against Peter Cech, you know, we're probably not having this conversation, Adrian.
Really, it went down to the wire. I wasn't aware of that goal helped you get on the plane to South Africa. But we'll get into your South Africa experience. But we want to turn the focus to the home nations this summer. We're going to take a quick break and then get your thoughts on what home advantage might mean for the US, Mexico, and Canada. You're listening to Beyond the Touchline. So here with Herculez Gomez, who's played in packed Liga MX stadiums. He's played in MLS Cup finals. He's played in a World Cup with the US men's national team. So who better to break down what playing at home might look like? So let's look at it in general terms first, Herc. What does home advantage to you as an ex-player actually feel like from the inside? Things like crowd noise and referees and travel and familiarity.
Well, I don't think people realize how much of an advantage it is in world football. And in CONCACAF, I don't think it could be understated. Sometimes players make comments and fans take it the wrong way. Tyler Adams once made a comment about how difficult it was to play in CONCACAF, how he could talk to his teammates at Leipzig and they would never understand the complexity of playing within CONCACAF. And what that means is that on any given day, You could be in a frozen tundra of Columbus, Ohio, where that is a fortress for the U.S. men's national team, and see teams feel the cold. You can go to Minnesota and see players reportedly come out with some sort of frostbite, and then go to Mexico City and play in altitude, smog pollution, sunshine, if you will. The combo that is El Estadio Azteca, how difficult it is to breathe, the fans on top of you. And then San Pedro Sula, where the grass goes up to almost your kneecaps, and you're playing in the midday sun, and the fans are hostile to a degree, where you're getting urine thrown at you. And I know people don't like to say this about CONCACAF, but it's happened. There's a saying in Mexico, agüita de riñón, kidney water, is what you're being thrown. These things happen. I remember playing CONCACAF Champions League at that time with the LA Galaxy in a playing game in San Jose, Costa Rica, where we're up 2-0 against Saprissa in their old stadium. And at halftime, you come down into the locker room, and the visiting locker room, guys, is smaller than like the ceilings we have in the United States for a purpose. The fan base, the home fan base, the ultras are above the locker room, and they are jumping up and down. It feels like this thing is going to come down on you. It is physically imposing. It is intimidating. You go back out on the field, and you have coins, batteries, cell phone batteries being thrown at you. You cannot understate the home field advantage for some of these countries. And this is within CONCACAF. Imagine the rest of the world. Imagine playing in Maracanã. Imagine playing at Wembley. Imagine playing in some of these venues, you know, and the tricks that happen before the games, the flares out in Turkey, you know, outside of the hotel rooms, etc. These things actually exist. Having home field is massive in any, I would say, FIFA sporting event.
There's obviously that physical intimidation that you're talking about there. How much of it also is psychological? I mean, as a coach, I know you're always trying to get your team to be playing at the ultimate level, and sometimes you have to pull the team back a little bit because they're overly excited, and then sometimes maybe you're playing a team that you're expected to win. You're trying to hype them up a little bit. But how much of that do you think is psychological as opposed to physical?
Almost all of it. I mean, you're a professional athlete. You physically have prepared for this moment for I don't know how long, if not all your life. It's not a physical capability. So why is it sometimes you don't perform? Why is it sometimes it looks like you're not up for the moment? I have colleagues now that I work in this media side, some of them ex-players, a lot of them not ex-players, and they will talk about the X's and O's. They will put on the big board, this is what happens, this is why it broke down, this is why this happened. You can't quantify the feeling of your legs turning into butter. It's difficult to explain to somebody how there's an away goal rule and you get an away goal scored on you and you have an aggregate lead and you start coming into a shell. You start feeling like the world is on top of you. Everything feels more important, and every mistake gets magnified and it snowballs. Nick, you know how this is. Sometimes teams, players get themselves into situations and their worst enemy are themselves. It's very easy to sit here and say, this broke down because of this thing. But if you can actually say, no, I know exactly what was going through his mind. Nope. He missed this, and I know exactly why, because 1,000 things run through that player's mind in a half second. Mentally, it's more important than physically in these moments.
Yeah.
I want to just ask, like, you know, in your career when there's maybe times when things weren't going well, maybe your team is sending you out on loan somewhere else or anything like that. Is there any time that you thought, you know what, maybe this is not going to work out for me?
How much time do you have?
Yeah.
We talked about briefly in the last segment of my playing career when I went out to Mexico for the second time. I didn't have a job. The Kansas City Wizards gave me a take it or leave it contract, which I felt was very underwhelming and very unfair, and I think kind of helped me build a fire. But I took this flyer out in Mexico on a 6-month deal because I had nothing else. And before I got the phone call, I started thinking, well, what am I going to do? You know, I'm on my parents' couch. You know, I'm at home. I'm going to a 24-hour fitness. For those kids listening, that was a gym that used to exist back in the day. You know, that you could pay a monthly due and get in and out if you'd like. And I'm preparing myself for God knows what. I had no idea what was going to happen. And I started thinking to myself, I got to start thinking about life after football. You know, I got to start thinking about what I'm going to do. When I broke out, and you know, I'm very fortunate to have what I have today and be where I'm at today and to share my story. But at that time, I'm 26 years of age, nothing really to show for it financially, and I'm thinking I'm probably gonna end up working a job. And what kind of job would that be? And I started thinking about becoming a teacher, getting my teacher's credential. And literally that changed when I got a phone call. I went on a New Year's Eve trip with my then girlfriend at the time and some friends, and I get off a plane in San Francisco, and I hear a voicemail about this opportunity at Puebla, and my life changed. My life changed. But if not, and you talk about these, what are you thinking? My mind was elsewhere. Like I'm preparing physically, but mentally, I'm thinking this may be it.
This summer, Herc, the US, Mexico, and Canada all get to host the first ever three host nation World Cup. Bit of history for you when it comes to hosts at World Cup. The first 11 World Cups, we're talking right up through Argentina, 1978. Of the hosts, 5 winners, 2 runners-up, 1 third place, 3 quarterfinals. This is the early era of the World Cup, and it was the major soccer nations who were hosting mainly in that era. Success rate was spectacular. In the 12 World Cups since 1982, one host winner. That was France in 1998. Yeah, Spain, Italy, Germany, Brazil all failed even to make it to the final at home in those World Cups. But at the same time, we've seen the rise of the so-called lesser soccer nations hosting. Mexico made a quarterfinal in '86. The US round of 16 in '94. South Korea, obviously the ultimate example of that, making a semi-final in 2002. Even Russia in 2018 making a quarterfinal. There is a trend for home nations to sort of bat above their average, to whatever their FIFA ranking is at the time, to actually exceed that as a host nation. So what should the expectations be, do you think, on the 3 home host nations, and what would constitute a success for them? And maybe it's a different answer in each case.
Yeah. Maybe we're bearing the lead, but Qatar crashed out in spectacular fashion.
As did South Africa. So there have been some flameouts.
Yes, as did South Africa. There have been some flameouts. Mexico, different format, because even the Mexican public, they will say, that wasn't our quarterfinal game. They still want their quinto partido, which now is a sexto partido, a 6th game.
Yes.
And most don't know this, but like the U.S. men's national team in 1994, you talk about the round of 16, they made it as a best third place team.
Yes. They only won 1 game, didn't they, against Colombia?
That Colombia, it's not just any one game. Like that Colombia was favored by many to be a contender in that World Cup. They crashed out in spectacular fashion, which leads me to like the World Cups are so unpredictable. Like the World Cups, Qatar was coming off of being a team that came down to Gold Cup and performed very well, that in Asia was dominating, these are teams that you would have expected more out of. Expectations for this World Cup? Well, first one is to put on a great show, to show why North America can be a serious footballing region. But for each nation, that is different. Now, if we talk about Canada, I think with their group, it's getting out of the group as one of the top 2, which will be very difficult, especially if it's Italy. Italy, first game in Toronto, and we'll get into it. They will be the local team. I lived in Toronto. I know what I am talking about. There are Italian Canadians everywhere. They will be the dominant force there. Switzerland is no slouch. They are a constant second-round team within the World Cup. They are a very good team with European players that play in some very good European teams. And Qatar, that would be their most accessible game. But for them, it's getting out as 1 or 2 and to see how they can have their 1994 moment. Because 1994, for the U.S. men's national team, they need that moment. Wasn't successful in terms of where they got, but what happened after that. The birth of Major League Soccer, the growth, the boom of soccer in this country, the birth, if you will, of the U.S. being a soccer nation. We all work in the States. We see how the game is consumed here. It is not a U.S. men's national team country. It is not a Major League Soccer country, but it's a soccer country. This is why these teams, these leagues, these entities come and they want the U.S. because it is consumed so much here. They need to have their boom like the U.S. did in 1994. That would be success for Canada. Go as far as you can go. Listen, I'm a baseball fan. I'm a Dodger fan. The Dodgers played against the Blue Jays, and all of Canada was behind a team that was locally based in Toronto. Could you imagine what all of Canada would do if Jesse Marsh and his team could make a run? That would be success for Canada. For the U.S. men's national team, you've had your 94 moments. Some of those guys are living off that 94 moment today, A lot of
Yep.
those guys are known just because of that tournament. They didn't have stellar club careers. They're still living off the 94 moment. For the first time in this golden generation's history, they will be household names. Weston McKennie, Christian Pulisic, Tyler Adams, and company have an opportunity to become commodities, have an opportunity to take their fame to the next level within their own country. Maybe casual American fans know about these players. American soccer fans know about these players, but maybe the casual knows. Not enough will probably know who these players are. Every 4 years, they tune in. Like the Olympics, they will know who these players are. They have an opportunity to take the game to the next level. But the problem here is, I am part of Project 2010. My age group, 1982, was the first residency program. Landon Donovan, Aguchi Onweyu, DeMarcus Beasley, Kyle Beckerman, all those guys. That age group, the project was to win the World Cup by 2010. I played in the World Cup 2010. I don't know if you guys know this, but we did not win the World Cup. This is a long time coming where they expect an American team to compete. If there was ever a moment, guys, where the U.S. men's national team could compete to make a run, a serious run, and I'm talking about quarterfinal, semifinal, it has to be on home soil. It has to be with your golden generation. It has to be at the time where you have the most players playing in Europe and you have players playing in quality leagues and in quality teams. I think the expectation is quarterfinals, because if you look at how improbable Morocco's run was last World Cup, they played in a group with Croatia, a World Cup finalist, the World Cup before. They played in a group with the golden generation of Belgium, and they played in a group with the CONCACAF winner in Canada. And they got out of their group, and they then played Spain, Portugal, and France. As improbable as a run as that is, if they in this format wanted to make another semifinal after facing everything I just mentioned, and then after going through Spain, Portugal, France, throw in another top contender to make it to the semifinal. It's one more game. So realistically, if the U.S. does their job and whoever is supposed to do their job does their job to meet in the quarterfinal, which would be Spain, by the way, that is their miracle on ice moment. That is what they have to aspire to. And then when it comes to Mexico, es el quinto partido. And maybe you guys won't like what I have to say, but this is a very underwhelming Mexican team and its worst version in its modern history, coming off a World Cup where they totally failed, fracaso total, in which they didn't make the knockout rounds for the first time, I believe, in 8 World Cups. It was them and Germany and Brazil who had the longest, no, them and Brazil, because Germany ruined that a while back, who had the longest streaks of making it to the second round. At home in Estadio Azteca, in the climate, the altitude, the smog, the sunshine, the home support, which is, I think, top 3, if not top in all this World Cup, they will have a massive opportunity to shock the world. And if they do, in the round of 16, on the line for their sexto partido, their quarterfinal appearance, will be England in Estadio Azteca with 2 to 3 days to acclimate to that weather. I think for them, that is the bar. I think, and this is polemic, but I think they can shock England. As my colleague at ESPN put it, Shaka Hislop, the conditions at Estadio Azteca for England would be the ultimate equalizer.
Yeah, I mean, you've already led us to where you're leaning. I was going to ask you which 3 of the home nations is going to benefit the most from hosting, and I suspect you're going to say Mexico.
Yes. If you know the Mexican setup, you know that the Mexican fan base at times has been, let me rephrase this, because I believe in the Mexican fan base, but there are 2 fan bases. There are sets of fan bases from Mexico. There's the fan base that turns on their team in Estadio Azteca in World Cup qualifying or in Nations League that say, why aren't you beating Jamaica? Why aren't you embarrassing Honduras? And they start booing their own team. So their players don't feel backed. There are the elements that have gone against the Mexican national team players because at one time their base was European and they'd come back for a few days to the altitude. And Andres Guardado and Hector Herrera, who was Atletico at the time, would say, this isn't conducive for us European players. We feel it's affecting us as well. But that'll change during the World Cup. I've been to World Cups as a pundit. Russia, opening game against Germany, a stadium that holds 57,000 and 52,000 of those fans being Mexican at the top of their lungs singing the national anthem, feeling how much of a fortress that is. And Mexico upsetting Germany and seeing the belief it can cause within that team and that fan base. In Mexico City with those elements, they'll be by far the most supported team, and they'll be by far the team that feels like they are at home. The U.S., I think they got a favorable group in terms of nobody in that group, Australia, Paraguay, and potentially Turkey, will have a rabid fan base where it feels like an away game, which fans and pundits and some players, if not all players, would say has been a factor going against them sometimes playing within their own country. And Canada, to me, would be an enigma because opening game is in Toronto, and it could be Italy, and they won't be the home team. I've lived in Toronto. I played for Toronto FC. When you said that I'm probably the most qualified person to talk about this, I think that's default because I've lived in Canada, played professionally soccer in Canada, football in Canada. I've played professionally soccer and football in Mexico, and the same in the United States. I cover the national teams. I can tell you what these environments are like. That game, they will not be a home team, but they can get the home support of their country if they make a run. That is for sure.
Yeah, I look at Canada, and they have some genuine world-class players now. And
Yes.
Are you familiar with Marcelo Flores?
Of course I am. Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
that's kind of a new thing, right? Where they're actually taking Mexican-Canadian players. And
Well, I wouldn't say it's a new thing, Nick, because I think Canada's been doing this with a lot of dual citizens. Jonathan David has Haitian citizenship as well. Alfonso Davies, he's an African refugee. But they do such a good job of recruitment. Jesse Marsh has really taken this program to the next level. I was a huge fan of John Herdman. I think John Herdman really turned this program around. The Canada that I used to play against was an afterthought. The Canada that I watched wasn't worth my time. John Herdman comes about, gave this team belief. He gave them a style of playing. He made them difficult to play against. And they went down, John Herman's Canada, to Azteca and took points away from Mexico. They went down to Cincinnati, or was it Nashville? I believe it was Nashville, took points away from the U.S. men's national team. They brought them to Canada. They didn't touch the ball. So he made this team believe, and he took them to a certain level that was respectable, very respectable. Jesse Marsh has since exceeded that. Jesse Marsh made Canadians for the longest time had the stereotype of being too nice, as a people, of the friendly neighbor. Well, this Jesse Marsh team, they're going to punch you in the face first. They'll ask questions later. And they've done it by bringing in some very good players. World-class players. Alfonso Davies, at one point, was one of the best left backs in the world while winning the Champions League. I had Marcelo Vieira. Marcelo, the Real Madrid left back, the Brazilian left back who has a heart of a 10 on the podcast on Vamos. And he was talking about Alfonso Davies as having the potential to be one of the all-time greats in the position. That's his ceiling. That's what he was talking about. Jonathan David has been the best nine for my money for the last 4 to 5 years. And he just got rewarded with the move to Juventus. Conan's a very good player. Stacchio, what he was doing in Portugal. You mentioned Marcelo Flores. Marcelo Flores is just scratching the surface. Let's see what he can do now with Canada. Tigres, he's still been a player that's, not tapped that potential. You've got guys on this team, on Canada, who will play in some very big games, who will play in some very big, platforms. So this Canadian national team is no longer, the Will Johnsons who are standing out within that program. No longer the Julian de Guzmans, the Dwayne de Rosarios. Like, this is the norm now for this team.
Yeah, I was always a huge fan of Jesse Marsh's in MLS. Always a great coach to talk to, Herc. I personally was astonished he didn't get the US job. I thought he would have been brilliant, but here he is with a great opportunity to
Probably not as astonished as he was.
Yes. But he's got a great opportunity to rub their noses in it at this World Cup. So with the US, Mauricio Pochettino is the man charged with leading this golden generation. What do you think the most important, if the US are going to be successful this summer, and we've already defined that success potentially as making a quarterfinal or better, what has to happen, and which key players really have to have kind of almost breakout tournaments, I guess?
Yeah. If they are to be successful, they have to find defensive stability. They found a tactical formation that works for them. I think that tactical formation, the 3 center backs, line of 5 at the back, is there to protect Tim Ream and the physical liability that Tim Ream can be. Tim Ream is so good with the ball. Tim Ream is your center back on the left-handed side that could advance the ball forward, make progressive passes, could be the guy to orchestrate your build-out. But when you are going to be on the back foot, as I suspect the U.S. men's national team will be in many cases throughout this tournament as they advance, You have to protect yourself. You have to protect the zero. You have to have defensive stability. You've got to be more pragmatic. They need to find that identity. And secondly, your playmakers need to be playmakers. Christian Pulisic cannot be the Christian Pulisic of 2026 for AC Milan. He cannot be the Christian Pulisic with 1 assist and 0 goals in 2026. He needs to be the Christian Pulisic that leads the line, the Christian Pulisic that at one point in time was not only the face of AC Milan, one of the most historic sporting brands in world football, but was one of the best players, if not the most productive player, in Serie A. He's got to go back to being that guy, that leader. He's got to have his big moment in the World Cup. When it's all said and done, he will be the best U.S. men's national team player of all time. He is going down that route where he will tear the goal-scoring record apart for Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey, maybe come close to Landon Donovan's assist record, maybe, but he will go down as the best U.S. men's national team player in terms of where he played at the club level and the numbers he will put up for the U.S. men's national team. But where Clint Dempsey and Landon Donovan set themselves apart, they've had big moments for the U.S. men's national team. Landon Donovan was a teenager when he was named the best young player in a World Cup. Landon Donovan is the all-time leader in World Cup goals for CONCACAF. Landon Donovan knows what it's like to lead the line to a finals appearance at the Confederations Cup. Clint Dempsey knows what it's like to score in 3 separate World Cups. Clint Dempsey knows what it's like to be the guy somebody leans to in a big moment for the U.S. men's national team. Having been named, I believe, the best player, if not the second best player, of the Confederations Cup, where they lost to Brazil in the final after they were up 2-0. He knows what it's like to be the man, to have massive moments with the U.S. men's national team, and not just against the worst generation of Mexican footballers that I've seen. They've had those big moments. Christian, he needs those big World Cup moments. And if the U.S. men's national team is to do anything of worth, it's riding Christian Pulisic and defensive stability.
Yeah, I wonder how much of what you just said is actually playing on his mind as he's playing right now.
I'm sure it's not lost on him how poorly statistically he's been doing, because Maxi Allegri will tell you he's been doing all the right things. And I don't want to be too unfair with Christian Pulisic. I was of the train of thought when he took time off in the summer that he was right. The reports from those in or around him was that he was dealing with a hip issue that was chronic, and Milan would not allow him the time to take it off, and he felt he had the equity with the U.S. men's national team to ask for the time off. I think ultimately that was proved right. You can see him physically not right, and when you're physically not right as a footballer, and you guys know this, no footballer has ever 100%. As your career goes on, you've got to learn how to deal and play with things that happen to your body. But mentally, when you are in this type of slump, if you will, every game that goes by, it just snowballs. Every opportunity that you miss, it just gets bigger. It's emotionally, psychologically what we were talking about earlier. And I'm sure heading into a home World Cup, that is weighing on his mind.
Those aches and pains are what Adrian and I are feeling when we go out and play golf these days.
I feel you. I'll be 44 in April. And my knee is probably 84, so I know exactly where you guys are going.
It's got some mileage there, Herc. Last thing on the 3 host nations, FIFA rankings, like them or loathe them, they are what we have. US they're ranked 15. They've been there or thereabouts for a good few years now. They haven't really budged much. Mexico have slipped down, haven't they? They've slipped down to 16 currently. They were in the top 10 only a few years ago. Canada have rocketed. They were ranked 100 a decade ago. 100. They're up in the top 30 now, ranked 29. Interesting, isn't it?
Well,
I was going to ask, go on.
No, so I hate FIFA rankings because there's
I thought you did.
There's so many ways to deceive it. Like, FIFA rankings are based off the quality opponent, and they're also based off like the number of games you play.
Yeah.
You guys know Mexico is a juggernaut when it comes to scheduling games within the continental United States because they make so much money. You have over 40 million Mexican Americans in the western side of the United States. As long as they keep scheduling games, these people are going to come out. The Mexican American fan base, which is so faithful, is going to come out and spend the hard-earned dollars. So they keep doing it. So as they accumulate those games, and as we get Gold Cups, Nations League, as we get these type of events, well, they're just going to accumulate points. And this goes for the U.S. men's national team as well. So you play more games, you get more points. It doesn't necessarily mean that these teams who are ranked 15th and 16th are going to be better than, let's see, South Korea are going to be better than Poland, are going to be better than Colombia, are going to be better than some of these nations, Ecuador. It doesn't mean that at all. So I take it out with a grain of salt. But in terms of Canada, there's no bigger turnaround in CONCACAF than the Canadian men's national team. Look at a nation like Jamaica. Jamaica has the most resources out of any Caribbean nation, and I would probably say the most ceiling out of any team within CONCACAF. They've got over 100 dual nats in the English pyramid, in the British pyramid, at all levels. And for whatever reason, they can't put it together to qualify directly in a World Cup without a qualification process that includes the U.S. men's national team, Canada, or Mexico. So there is no bigger turnaround than Canada. You see exactly what they've done.
Yeah. Okay, quick break. Thanks so much, Herc. I know you're busy. We just got one more round of quick fire questions for you right here on Beyond the Touchline. So one last time here on Beyond the Touchline. Herc, before we let you go, just wanted to get you to talk about your personal World Cup experience, 2010, South Africa, where you wore the US shirt.
Yes.
And were part of a team that, maybe surpassed expectations there by getting to the first knockout round, the round of 16. What's the first thing that comes to mind now when you think back to that summer 16 years ago?
Well, that I made the team.
Yeah, that was good.
I just couldn't believe I made the team, guys. I remember that I was nowhere near the picture. My last call-up with the U.S. men's national team was Copa America. My first and only last call-up was Copa America 2007. I come back from that tournament and I tear my ACL within days of being back with Colorado. And that was it. I hadn't been part of the program. And I go to Mexico. I win a goal-scoring title after not being in one single camp, playing one single minute. And I knew that if I were to make the team, I'd have to make a name for myself in the physical testing. I'd have to make a name for myself in the finishing drills. I'd have to just do anything and everything over guys who had been there before that were maybe on the bubble. And when I get to the stadium at Hartford, where we play the Czech Republic, I'm looking for my jersey, and they're all in numerical order. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and all the way down to 30. There was 30 of us. And as I keep looking for my name, here goes 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. And there's my name, 30, Gomez. And it kind of just hit me. You're number 30. You're number 30. And I didn't start that game, but I had made a penchant of coming off the bench and being productive with Puebla and my goal-scoring title run. And I knew that I had to be ready, come on. And I came on, and within minutes of being on the field in the second half, corner kick, I believe it was Stuart Holden sends it. Clarence Goodson redirects it from one end of the, second back post to the near post, and it just falls to me, and I head it in, and it's my goal. And I just remember thinking, all right, you've done what you can do. You've proven you can score a goal off the bench. Fast forward, I make the team, and I'm just happy to be at the World Cup. I end up playing a game already. I've gotten on the field, and in my head, I'm thinking, you played a World Cup. That's awesome. You can die happy. And the day before the Algeria game, Jesse Marsh comes into my room. He was the assistant coach with Mike Sorber, and they tell me that I'm going to start the next game. Be ready. They hand me a digital flash drive with a computer, and here are the movements of some of the Algeria players defensively. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to start a game. Not thinking anything of it. We're in the tunnel. We're walking onto the field, and as I'm walking onto the field and lining up, we get ready. National anthem, hand over the heart. I start singing, and then I'm looking around, and the stadium is packed. Vuvuzelas are going. And I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, I'm at the World Cup. Holy shit, I'm going to start a game. And that's when it really hits you. You're at the World Cup. It's no longer, hey, I got to do this. It was just like a holy shit, I'm here moment. And it happened to be the game that Landon Donovan scores the late equalizer. We end up winning the group. And I don't know how much you guys remember of that group, but I recall when the group was announced, I believe it was the Daily Mirror out in the UK. It had the acronym EASY.
Yep.
England, Algeria, Slovenia, Yanks. We won the group. And that's I'll always remember that. Yeah,
fantastic.
Right, we want to go to some quick fire round here, Adrian.
Yeah, just to get you out of here. Well, you kick us off, Nick.
All right. So no hesitation here, Herc. Best player you ever shared a pitch with?
Lionel Messi. I've been that was my debut against Argentina. He was a teenager, but I've also
Yeah,
been
he's
fortunate
not bad.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to share the pitch with Zidane, Figo, Ronaldo, the Brazilian, El Fenomeno, Ronaldinho, Cristiano Ronaldo. I've been very, very fortunate.
It's funny, when we talked to Cristiano Ronaldo, he mentioned you too.
He did. He did.
Yes.
It's like
He was
Herculez
like, why
Gomez.
is this guy staring at me so much?
Herc, best stadium atmosphere you've ever broadcast from, not necessarily played in, but now you've shifted over to this side of the pond, because you sense it differently when you're a booth or working.
You're right. And that would be Lumen Field with the Seattle Sounders MLS Cup against Toronto FC. I believe it was the third time they had faced Toronto FC. 2019, I called it for ESPN Deportes. Seattle, what they have in Seattle is something special. It's very unique. The Sounders run the city, and that's easier said than done when it comes to football in this country. But the fans have taken to it, and it's one of the most unique atmospheres that I've ever been part of.
Yeah, I used to love going there, covering MLS. Always special. The turf, not so much, but the stadium.
When my kids were younger, I told them I would take them on the march to the match with the Seattle Sounders fans.
It's awesome. It's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
It was cool. So I don't know if you really know how to answer this question, but which league do you feel like is more underrated by Europeans, Liga MX or MLS?
Liga MX, because they don't even know it exists. Like they know Major League Soccer's out there because of Messi, but I think there's an element of surprise that comes with the not only talent level but the amount of money that circles Liga MX. Andre Pierre Gignac is known in this region now because of what he's done with Tigres. The guy is making like 5 million net, at Tigres. When he came over, he was the only person outside of Cavani and Zlatan with more goals in the French First Division in like the last 4 or 5 years. And he came as a relatively unknown himself, knowing Liga MX, and those in Liga MX knowing him. And I believe when people come to the region and they see the impact of the league, not only in their own country, but in the United States, they're kind of taken aback. But in Europe, they don't know it exists. It's just as exotic as saying I'm going to go play in India or I'm going to go play in China. Or I'm going to go play in Qatar. They see it as an exotic destination, and there's so much money and talent there that I think they're taken aback by it.
Okay, this summer, Herc, of the three host nations, give us one player from any of the three countries that you think could step up and be a breakout star or make a massive difference to their national team's hopes.
Man, so this comes with an asterisk.
Okay.
There's a player right now who plays for Mexico who's 17 years of age. His name's Benjamin Mora. I'm sorry, this is his father. I played with his father. His name's Gil Mora.
Yeah.
His name's Gil Mora. And Gil Mora is 17 years of age, and he is the youngest player ever to win a continental title in CONCACAF. He won the Gold Cup with Mexico last year. He's only got 5 national team games, full national team games to his name. But he's a wonder kid out of Mexico with the likes of Barcelona, Real Madrid, all these, Manchester United. I was contacted with people out there asking me about him. He's 17 right now, dealing with a sports hernia like Mastantuono had, like Lamine Yamal had. But if he recovers on time, this is a player that's going to turn heads. He's a creative midfielder. He attacks, he defends, hits the ball well with both feet. He's small, diminutive. He's eye-catching. He's good with the ball at his feet. He's going to turn heads. And this comes with the asterisk because he's injured right now. But Mexico right now, for a player that only has 5 caps to his name, is keeping tabs on him and hoping and praying he gets back in time to defend the Mexico jersey in a home World Cup. I think this is the one player for me out of the 3 teams that has the ability to kind of gain the world's attention.
All right, last one, Nick.
So when you step away from the camera or the microphone, what still genuinely excites you about football? Like what? Because we've probably watched more games and played in more games than is healthy for us. Like what still gets you excited in the morning when you say, I got to go out to Gillette Stadium and go watch this game?
It's such a hard question because you do this long enough, you get desensitized, like, who's your team? I'm like, it's difficult to have a team, I play with for many teams, and I grew up a Manchester United fan. Back in my day, we got one Premier League channel or game a week, and Manchester United was on in the late 90s, the treble winning season, whatnot. It's been some time since we've been good. So you get removed from certain things. What gets me excited now in or around the game is actually going to these events. And I go to these events, like yesterday I was in Boston for France versus Brazil. And you see how they're preparing the field, and it's wet, and they're cutting the grass, and the smell hits you. There are certain moments that bring me back. And not just to professional football, but like when I was a kid playing soccer tournaments or playing Saturday soccer, those type of little things are what really still gets me excited. It like directly hits it into my veins. Nothing else gets me excited, you know? Like nothing else gives me the same type of I'm here moment.
They probably didn't cut the grass in Parque del Sol.
Oh, they did, trust me. They get that thing pristine.
Hey, Herc, this has been absolutely terrific. Really, really appreciate you coming on. Yeah, as someone who got to commentate on part of your playing career and then kind of as a co-worker saw you break into broadcasting, let me say you are just doing fantastic stuff out there in the broadcasting world. You're approaching it like you did your playing career. I mean, you are just grabbing every opportunity and running with it. So long may that continue.
Well, Adrian, that means a lot coming from you. You're somebody that I look up to in this business. You've been around for a long time, doing this well for a long time. So I really appreciate that.
Thanks so much, Herc. Thanks for your insights. And enjoy the summer in all its twists and turns and different shapes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Nice to meet you,
ready.
Herc.
Likewise, Nick. Be well.
Take care.
All right. Great stuff. Thank you, sir.
No problem. Nope.